On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. The missing submarine. I've got some major news around that, I think. I also have an interesting theory I haven't seen or heard posed yet. I'm very interested to see what you guys think about that. You can please let me know in the comments. Also, if you haven't subscribed and thumbs up and flamed or whatever the thing is, please do all that on whatever platform you're watching me on. I appreciate it. And if you are watching me on YouTube, it's not my channel, so if there's any links to support below in a YouTube channel, unless they're mine and they're copying my stuff, just be cognizant of that. Now, we've got some news. We certainly know that they've managed to float the Evergreen, the Evergiven boat. We're going to talk about that, but also this crazy theory around this missing sub, why they're no longer saying hunt for Red October. Now it's just Red October. Got some very interesting thoughts around that. And then also got some couple great news articles that I want to point out to you guys. We'll get right into it. Outstanding news for sure. Donald Trump is planning on doing a border visit in the next few weeks. He was invited by ICE and CBP. Can you only imagine how that's going to probably go? It's going to be very interesting to see, one, the speech he does, two, what sort of pictures and whatnot he can take, three, if the Saxter tries to stop him. We'll see how that all plays out. But certainly very, very cool news that Mr. Donald Trump is planning on going down there in the next couple weeks. I think there's significance around the time frame. Who knows if he's going to be speaking in an official capacity? I doubt it, but who knows? We've always heard that April was supposed to be a big month, obviously getting to the end of March. So we'll see how that continues to play out. We'll keep tabs on it. This is a really great interview that Lindsey Graham did. And I got to give him credit. I mean, normally he's like Ted Cruz. It's like, I want to see more action, less talk. But he's actually kind of hardcore. And although I dislike Chris Wallace with just about every ounce of my being, I believe this 2.5 minutes is definitely worth your time. Now, I will do a quick commentary at the end, if you will. Some people might be a little frustrated around if people are maybe mentally not capable of owning weapons. I mean, we can have a debate around that, but I certainly don't think, if someone's crazy, I don't think they should be able to easily get a gun. So I'm going to apologize in advance. I am a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment, have my own fair share of things as well. So again, it's just one of those things. So we can talk, but let's check this out. It's a great interview.
Weigh your guns. And what's wrong with a serious debate after all of these shootings about assault weapons, and especially about large capacity magazines, which a lot of studies show contribute to these mass killings?
Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong about debate. As a matter of fact, I would challenge Senator Schumer to bring the assault weapons ban to the floor of the United States Senate. It won't get 50 votes, much less 60. I own an AR-15. If there's a natural disaster in South Carolina where the cops can't protect my neighborhood, my house will be the last one that the gang will come to because I can defend myself. You don't have to have an AR-15, but if you have one lawfully, I think you should be allowed to keep it. Most of these problems have a lot to do with mental health. Count me in for addressing that issue. Red flag laws exist in 19 states. There's some things we can do, but at the end of the day, if you think an assault weapons ban is what the country needs, bring it to the floor of the United States Senate and vote on it. I welcome that debate.
Well, let me ask you about that, Senator. I got about a minute left. You are pushing a red flag bill, and the idea would be if you've been adjudicated as being a danger to yourself or other people, then they could take away your gun. But as you know, there are some gun rights groups that disagree with that and say that you're doing away with people's due process. And I guess that's the question. Is it seems like there's no possibility for any reform.
Well, I think there is. There's 1 million people who have been adjudicated a danger to themselves or others at state court levels, and the adjudications are not in the background system. Alice Bolton was a person that was found not guilty by reason of insanity of trying to threaten President Bush. Her adjudication was not in the background system. She bought a gun and tried to kill people at a local school. I think most people would like to have these adjudications into the system, and any red flag law has to have ample and robust due process. So count me in for dealing with the mental health aspects of this. Count me in for trying to have common sense background checks to get the best information into the system. And if you fail a background check, count me in for telling the local cops that the individual failed it. But assault weapons ban, bring it up. Let's vote on it.
And I agree. I mean, I agree with him. Now, I do admit, and I agree, that there is a really fine line in there, right? As far as if you're actually found to be crazy. But what is frustrating is in a lot of these cases where mass shootings occur, obviously the people are generally have had psychological issues or psychological help. Now, I do think there's some nefarious actions that happen around that side of things, and I do believe it's meant to influence this debate. So I do not think this is simple, but I certainly believe AR-15s should continue to be legal. I do not agree with the high-capacity magazine ban. So again, I don't agree with a lot of this stuff, but I do agree if someone that's found insane and even threatened to kill people already, they probably shouldn't be able to get a gun, right? I mean, I think most of us can agree with that. Everything that Lindsey Graham said, no, but I get why he's being a bit of a politician. So whatever. I'm not trying to get off in the weeds where some are going to get mad at me and some won't. And I apologize. I'm not trying to. It's just, I think it's a complex question, and that's what I kind of think is cool about it. Richard Grinnell brings up a great tweet here. In regards to the Biden admin to set to launch the passport that Americans must have to engage in commerce or to be able to, like fly or anything like that. They want to use it to like basically track people. And Richard Grinnell goes, do we get the mark on our foreheads or our hands? I'm just not sure. I just want to know so I can prepare the proper tattoo to hide it up. So apparently Cher is a little bit upset about what Georgia's doing, requiring voter IDs. I'm not surprised. If you think about it, right? She's like, if I could turn back time, I would take adrenochrome. Something like that. I don't know how the song's gonna go, but she's going to be coming out with something new soon. Scary looking woman, really. I don't know how many plastic surgeries she's had, but they've not done well by her in the last few. All right, so heading into the crazy stuff. And this is, I don't know, I think this is pretty interesting. And this goes back a couple of years as well. But obviously, Suez Canal, we found now that the Evergreen is afloat and is heading towards Great Bitter Lake to have some inspections. I'm sure that's to inspect the equipment, make sure the boat's working properly, all that, right? Because it just suddenly ran itself aground. Also probably want to make sure there's no significant damage. So interesting that they got it loose prior to unstacking it. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people are like, but I'm so sure there was children on board. There still might be, and I'm not done thinking that, but I absolutely think there was a second aspect to this, and it goes back to that missing submarine. And this will, I think, make sense. And I think some people will be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm there with you. So let's just kind of try to work through this the best I can. Obviously, this is where I got the picture. Future news will highlight, note, the hunt for was dropped. Details matter. Now, what that implies to me, if you're no longer hunting for something, you know where it's at, right? You might still need to put a trap. You might still need to seal the deal. You might still need to make something occur. But the hunt only happens until you find your prey. So for them to have dropped the hunt implies they know exactly where this thing's at. Maybe recently it disappeared from sight, but for the long story short, they've known where this thing was at. And so it begins. How do you start a war? Now this goes back to 2018, and on this particular image here, June 10th of 2018, there was a missile launch that occurred from out, this is the one that activated the incoming missile threat. I believe this was the one that came from North Korea or whatever, this was the one from Whidbey Island. That's right, yeah. So this came from Whidbey Island. The president was flying to North Korea at the time, and this rogue missile launches, causes a lot of panic, somehow gets shot down or dealt with or whatever. We don't really know, right? Because we're just the people that have no access. But from Whidbey Island, which is very close to not just Bill Gates and things like that, but also very close to another unique island that we're going to talk a little bit about here in a second, that definitely seems to come into play. Definitely, speculatively seems to come into play. So right before POTUS is heading to North Korea, they launched this missile. Some are speculating that they were attempting to launch a nuclear missile that they were going to detonate essentially on the ground or the sea below the president's plane. Now, the EMP blast wouldn't probably affect the plane. That's not really the concern. It's probably the huge mushroom cloud and the giant updraft in heat that would have probably caused the plane to crash or would have likely have killed the president. That is the speculation that they felt this Whidbey Island incident was trying to cause. So why was the hunt dropped? Seems like almost after this, they probably knew something, right? So they're talking about when was the authorized missile fired. We obviously know the time. So when was the missile fired? Right before the president was heading to North Korea. How was it found discovered prior to the hunt? They might have known where it was at, might have done some research, not sure. What they're hinting, like, we knew where it was at already, and they've been paying attention. So Russia's sub threat pushed. So they wanted to blame Russia, of course. So that was the whole point, that a Russian submarine launched a missile, blah, blah, blah. So again, they started calling it just Red October at that point. And it worked as a neat, like they say, double meaning, right? It made us think that it was Russia, the Russian Red October. But it also got everybody talking about submarines. Okay, so what starts to get interesting here? 1 month after this particular launch, June 10th, 2018, 1 month later, on August 10th, because it was the day before this article was written, it said the Friday, I actually bothered to check the calendar, the 10th was a Friday, but an airline employee took a plane, the Q400, you guys might remember this, and they took this airplane for a bit of a joyride. Apparently F-15s were scrambled, and this individual ended up crashing this particular craft on an island. So what's interesting about this, the probability that someone took an airplane and just started flying it willy-nilly wherever they wanted, and again, where it crashed, we're going to cover right here. It actually crashed on Keytron Island. Now, Keytron Island's kind of an interesting island. First off, what's kind of interesting is when this plane crashed, it did create some debris. It created a fire, which many would call cover. What's also interesting about Keytron Island is it's a reasonably small island, pretty heavily forested, and there's this giant, like $1 million home on it. Might even be bigger than that. But what's also suspected is that there may actually be a submarine base on that island as well. Sound familiar to like someone like Epstein, someone like that had a submarine pen, someone that was capable of moving submarines around, maybe even something that was possibly used in the Puget Sound to move people around secretly. Just a thought process that's going into play here. But apparently this plane, this Q400, was flying around. Now, this Q400 happened to be a plane based off of some technology that was put into these craft, and it's in one of these stories I read. But these craft are capable of being remotely controlled, remotely piloted. Strong chances could have happened. They did say that the individual who flew this was Richard B. Russell, and that's supposed to be some little joke, and I'm not getting it. I mean, Richard's a dick, obviously. B. Russell, Dick Brussel. I didn't catch the joke, and hopefully you guys can help me understand it in the comments. But one thing people put two and two together on is there was a USS Richard B. Russell. Oddly. That was the connection. I hadn't made it. Oh my God, that's so funny. So the name of the submarine is named after Richard B. Russell, who is also who they were saying was the pilot. Oh, I did not connect that. So that's very cool. So this Richard B. Russell submarine is a Sturgeon-class submarine. It was actually decommissioned in Washington State. The original image of it is out in front of Whidbey Island, which is where that missile launched. And there's some discussions that they may very well have been doing or someone might have purchased this submarine, done some fixing to it, made it capable of launching missiles or possibly even put a nuclear missile on it, and thusly launched it at the president's or towards the president's plane while he was en route to North Korea. Now, there was an F-15 that was supposedly launched to try to shoot down this Q400 aircraft. What the theory is that maybe the F-15 shot down the plane. Sure, we'll give you that. But what they think actually happened is that the plane, remotely controlled, might have been crashed directly onto the facility on that island where the secret base was below, like below that spot where they crashed. And that the F-15 likely had a unique package, a weapons package, that would allow it to attack that particular submarine base. Remember, this happened almost exactly to the day, 1 month after the launch against the president. And they come in and they use the cover of an aircraft that was stolen and then crashed. And the pilot found was named after the submarine that was found. Again, messages to the deep state. God, I'm so bummed I missed that the first time. And they used the cover of this thing crashing and causing a fire to be able to hit it with some sort of penetrating bunker buster type ordnance. Okay, maybe that's a little far-fetched, but certainly from the timing of things, that's how it played out. This Q-400 aircraft was stolen literally a month later, crashed literally on an island that they suspect has a sub pin on it, and it's also not too far away from Whidbey Island. So this is the island that they found. This is the actual submarine, the USS Richard B. Russell. It's SSN 687, which 687 is kind of a cool number and all that. So it's a Sturgeon class submarine. It was one that was supposed to be mothballed, essentially, and who knows? So again, why was the hunt for dropped? Well, they probably knew where it was at, right? So we've noticed that we've had P8 Poseidon stuff happening all up and down the eastern and western sea coasts, right? So they're obviously looking for something. Not sure if there's another. There might very well be a second submarine. But what's also interesting, right? We had sources report here that this Russian submarine went missing. Again, Russian. It's always Russian. They've got to blame it on Russia because that's who they're trying to go to war with. But somehow the submarine goes missing. This Rostov-on-Don. Again, another coincidence. On Don. Donald Trump, right? Like, just interesting. And it apparently, the submarine of the Black Sea Fleet passed the Strait of Gibraltar submerged and is currently moving to the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea. Eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea. So the Straits of Gibraltar, let's see if I can pull this up really quickly. So I had this map pulled up yesterday's show, a couple shows ago. And this is very interesting. So Gibraltar, which also, by the way, is the Red Castle flag, their flag for Gibraltar is the Red Castle with the key dangling below. And Gibraltar is right here. Strait of Gibraltar is right here. Eastern Mediterranean takes you over here where you will find the Suez Canal. Eventually, you will find the Suez Canal connects to the Eastern Mediterranean. So this craft, this sub, disappears, goes submerged, ends up in the Mediterranean Sea. Maybe it's meant to escort this boat the rest of the way, who knows? But what's interesting we see is panic. Military ships line the EU coast. USS subs blocking entrance to the Mediterranean Sea at the Gibraltar and subs, Russian subs and U.S. subs are blocking the South Atlantic Oceans. 90% of EU warships are lining the coast. The West Coast Pacific U.S. fleets near China, Suez Canal, totally blocked. There's something inside the Mediterranean. They knew it went in there. They know where it's at, basically. They're trying to find it, so maybe the hunt's back on. But what's really interesting is really the only way out of the Mediterranean, especially in a smaller sub, is to go through the Suez Canal. How else can you, one, stop flow of traffic through one of the busiest waterways in the world, where 12% of traffic goes through? How do you stop traffic? Two, how do you come up with a reasonable way to put a bunch of military craft both north of the Suez Canal and south of the Suez Canal? And then on top of that, having U.S. submarines blocking right here at the Straits of Gibraltar, there is nowhere for it to go. Nowhere. And there is a whole bunch of craft in here. Mediterranean's not super deep. Not an easy place to try to get lost and to stay lost. So that's kind of interesting. Very strong chance that this ship in the Suez Canal was rammed into the side intentionally to block traffic. Now, was there stuff on this Evergreen ship that shouldn't have been? there's actually a strong chance that's true. One thing that's kind of interesting, and this is HuffPost, but Bloomberg estimates 10 ships stuck in and around the canal carrying livestock. The Guardian reported that tracking data shows that at least 20 ships are transporting animals. Most of the animals are believed to be sheep. This to me sounds like a call out for how many of these ships are transporting people, human cattle, if you will, and how often are people called sheep or sheeple. Again, am I reading between the lines? Yes, probably. But there's definitely a strong chance that there's a few things going on in this area at one time. So again, when do you call a plumber? When a ship is clogging the Suez Canal. So ongoing investigations are going. Obviously, the ship is free. It's going to go to Bitter Lake, which is interesting, like a bitter pill to swallow, and it's going to be investigated. So maybe Evergreen's already accomplished what it was supposed to. Maybe Evergreen's already in the news enough to get it in trouble and to get it searched. And who knows if we hear about what they find or what. Who knows? We'll find out. But on top of that, it actually served, I think, another purpose, which was to allow U.S. forces and probably Soviet forces to hunt down and trap this particular submarine that is probably making dangerous threats to the United States. That's probably got nuclear weapons or missiles on it. Maybe even one of those doomsday torpedoes. Because this thing, I've seen pictures of it where it was carrying scientific or larger like SEAL submarines on the back. And from what I understand, that doomsday submarine thing or doomsday torpedo is reasonably large. So it would probably want to dock itself externally on this submarine that's already had the capability. And by the way, it's got a very long back. And you can tell it's got a couple little maybe mount things here. So the ability for it to possibly have something stuck on top of it is extremely possible. In fact, I'm trying to see if here's one right here. So this is the Richard B. Russell carrying a large something or other on the back, which could be a giant nuclear torpedo for all we know in this particular image. So the possibility of that happening is very, not just likely, but very possible, right? Like it's a good chance that's what's going on here. So I'm wondering if they're looking for that. We've got Dutch authorities. They found 25 migrants in refrigerated containers on a UK ferry. Again, people are seeing and finding stuff. I don't think the Evergreen that, was free from sin. I probably has people being transported on it. And here we are, Dutch authorities finding some migrants on a refrigerated container coming into the UK. They're trying to get these people into these places that I think want to get the adrenochrome and other things. I really do. I mean, you think the Queen of England and all them, they're totally tied up in this. So there's definitely some high-powered Brits. And obviously trying to get this stuff to the United States is going to be important to them. And I'm sure there's other European places, such as, the Netherlands, right, where the ship was going, the Evergreen was going. Some other funny things about the word Evergreen. So Anons, you don't mess with Anons because they'll start going and digging on you. You watch. But the most famous street on this particular island, by the way, and this is Whidbey. Is this Whidbey, I think? Inside the executive waterfront towns. Oh, this is Medina. So within this Medina location, which Bill Gates lives, we've got the dude Bezos lives there, and then I guess the other founders of Microsoft. So they had Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and other executives. They all live on Evergreen Point Road. Maybe it's just coincidence. I'm sure that's all that is. Interestingly, Evergreen Consulting LLC, the director and officers of this particular corporation is Jennifer Psaki. Jennifer Renee Psaki is the person that's the director of Evergreen Consulting LLC. I'm sure that's a coincidence as well. What's also interesting is this wonderful part from Dexter. I love Dexter. I actually got a few of the seasons on DVD, and I forgot about this little component of it. This is a great little 50-second scene, and for those of you that have seen Dexter, this scene will mean a lot to you. Those of you that haven't, I'll do a quick explanation maybe right after. But check it out. Very powerful part of the whole show, and it explains kind of how Dexter got as messed up as he did. And inside that trailer was just full of blood. It was disgusting, and this poor kid was just in it. And this was his stepfather or his foster father that rescued him, and why he took Dexter under his wing. And Dexter, I don't know if you guys know, he's a guy that's like a serial killer that kills bad people and doesn't kill good people. It's actually a really cool series. It's a little graphic and a little crazy, but it's a very, very good show. Again, interesting that that's Evergreen. Also Evergreen, line tunnel. Alice will make it a boring job. Yeah, she's a 85-meter long with her trailing gear that provides the conveyor belt system. She expands to 2 kilometers. Her head is 10 meters wide, and she weighs 109 tons. She came to us in bits and pieces. She likes to eat dirt. She's Alice, the Evergreen line tunnel boring machine, and she is working on 2-kilometer tunnels between Port Moody and Coquitlam as part of the Evergreen Line Rapid Transit Project. This was apparently finished the 20th of January, 2016. Wasn't that when Trump took office? No, or was that 2017? It was 2017, so a year later. Interesting. And so again, okay, that's kind of weird, right? A lot of Evergreen stuff seems to be tied up with the wrong people. So we'll see how things continue to go. This is getting more and more strange. We got more and more info coming. Remember to kind of support all these crazy places. United we stand. United we are strong. We will get through this. We will win this. We've got the right people in charge. Where we go one, we go all. It's On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.